Woo! Ha ha! Woohoo! Oh, that was a good entrance, wasn't it? Be afraid, audience, for I will be about to review Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children. And I should warn you, it's going to hurt. Also, it's pretty long, so sorry in advance. Let's begin. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children, which is Series 12, Episodes 9 and 10, the final two-part story of Series 12, and at time of recording, the last story until Christmas 2020, New Year 2021, depending, and then Series 13 is supposedly going to be in the autumn of 2021. Not sure exactly when in the autumn of 2021 or late summer, but it'll be August to November 2021. 17 to 20 months away. Ah! Oh, damn it. Alright, what's the Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children like? Okay, this two-parter is a bit messy. This is quite a episode 10 is actually quite messy. Episode 9 is not that bad in terms of a story structure, but episode 10 gets a bit messy. With episode 9, we open on a pre-title scene with the remains of a former Cyberman battle with Cyberhead, cyber bodies, everything, and then one Cyberhead gets closer to the audience. It's the 2006-2011 design, although I do have to say some of the Cybermen we see later on when some other characters come into this cyber battle area, and they've got new chest plates, new style chest plates. That's interesting. And I think Ashad is one of these Cybermen. Ashad from Haunting of Villa Dioti, who returns in this two-part story. So it looks like we have the 2006-2011 Cybermen with a new chest plate design, which is interesting. However, the two Cybermen that accompany Ashad throughout the story are the 2011 chest plate Cybermen. Which is a shame. It would have been interesting to see the new chest plate ones. We also have new Cybermen, but we'll talk about those later on. But their chest plates are reminiscent to the new ones, or at least the Nightmare in Silver Cybermen ones, anyway. Okay, so yeah, we see the Cyberhead. It's 2006-11 style Cyberhead, and in one of the eyes, I think it's the right eye. The titles then come through. It's a nice transition into the titles through that eye. However, things take a change for the story when we start seeing scenes from early to mid 20th century Ireland, which is odd, and maybe late 20th century Ireland later on as well. But this is odd. These scenes here throughout the story, we keep cutting back and forth between a couple of scenes set in 20th century Ireland, and we're following this couple. This farmer finds a baby in the road, and he and his wife adopt the baby when no parents could be found by a police officer, who then later on becomes the baby's, when he grows up, his employer, as the boy becomes a GAR, or police officer. And we have a few scenes of the child being raised by his adopted parents, being loved, helping out on the farm, going to school, being unwell, and eventually him growing up to want to be a GAR, a police officer, and then he gets shot by accident by a thief, a scared thief, and he falls down a cliff. However, he miraculously survives, gets an honor award, and then the next time we see him, he's all grown up, as he's now retiring, someone who's been on the force for several years, several decades. And then his father and his senior officer, who haven't aged, take him back room and erase his memories, and that's the last we sort of see of him in episode 9. Episode 10, it's revealed that these are dreams. These things are covering some things that certain characters actually going through, and it's covering all of this with characters set in 20th Century Ireland for some reason. And yeah, in the context of episode 9, it doesn't make sense. Apparently, the Doctor has seen these as dreams or visions throughout the episode, but the episode doesn't edit them like that. They are treated as actual scenes in the episode rather than scenes that are dreams or visions that a character may be experiencing. But they're not edited like that. They're not presented that way. They just feel like normal scenes. One of them transitions into the next bit with Yasmin and Graham and their friends just traveling through space. It just cuts to that. There's no actual what can I say? It just doesn't fit in the context of episode 9. It just doesn't fit. And if it was supposed to be dreams the Doctor was having, which is explained in episode 10, it doesn't fit. It's not edited, nor does it look visually into the story, and neither does the Doctor react to this nor mention it to anyone. It's only in episode 10 where we'll reveal it, and I'll get back to that if I remember. But yeah, it's confusing why it's here in the first place. I mean, okay, in episode 10 it makes sense, but in episode 9, it just feels like scenes from episode 9 were just wasted for these scenes, and instead of focusing on the main plot. And that's kind of is a problem for episode 10 as well, because episode 10 is packed with stuff and it's not complete. So yeah, I think we could have cut down on the Brennan stuff, or maybe saved it for episode 10, and it could have been like that. But episode 9, it doesn't quite fit, unless it was edited in a way to show it was visions or dreams. Because in the context of the rest of the episode, it doesn't really make sense. Episode 10, yes, but not episode 9. However, in context of actually what is going on in episode 9, is the Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham arrive with a various amount of defences against Cybermen to help protect the surviving humans against them. However, these Cyberhead drones come in and take down the defences. Nice nods to the fact that the Cybermen are allergic to gold, reference to Revenge of the Cybermen and Nightmare in Silver, and the emotional inhibitor first mentioned in Age of Steel. Although I have heard complaints that the cyber drones should have latched onto people's heads and turned them into Cybermen like that. Yeah, I kind of agree. That would have been interesting. It would have made more sense than the way 3 of the humans died. Two of the humans died anyway. One of them, actually, that made sense how they died. They were shocked, but the other 2, they were running, the cyber drones caused an explosion to happen, and they somehow died after falling to the ground after that, after being lifted into the air and falling off the ground due to gravity and stuff, as an explosion would. But yeah, they died from that. I don't know how. Maybe their bones were weak, or maybe they were just caught up in the blast, or maybe maybe some debris got them. But no, somehow the explosion killed them when they were just a few feet away. Unless the cyber drones were really, really accurate. Somehow causing that. But yeah, but I think having the cyber heads lash onto the 2 of them would have actually made a lot more sense. I've also heard complaints that if they're going to send in drones, then you may as well send in the Cybermats. But to be honest, I think the cyber drones are more effective in taking out the defences. It's just a shame that they don't latch onto anyone and upgrade them. But again, the Cybermen seem to be more... they seem to care more about killing humans rather than upgrading them. Maybe they've got enough Cybermen on board their ships, but they just seem to be more keen on killing humans rather than upgrading them. Though this does sort of fit into their plan, as revealed in episode 10, when they want to remove organic life and just be mechanical. And I'll get back to this point in episode 10, because it does sound something the Cybermen would not do. It's actually the Siberians' plan, but the Cybermen themselves, they would want to keep organic, partly organic, and partly cybernetic. That's the whole point of the Cybermen. But I'm going to come back to this point when we get to episode 10. So everyone has to split up. The three of the four surviving humans and Yasmin and Graham. Why do I keep messing them up? They escape on a ship, and the Doctor, Ryan, got that one right, and the last human escape on a Cyberman ship and head towards the Boundary, where they meet this old general person from the Resistance, whilst the others arrive on a cyber ship after entering a former Cyberman battle zone, which I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the opening, and they arrive on a cyber ship. When investigating, Graham and one of the humans discover a whole chamber of Cybermen still in their cases. It's a bit disappointing, I do have to mention, that when they revive those Cybermen, because it's inevitable they revive, that they don't cut through any plastic like they do in Tomb of the Cybermen in the Invasion, Earthshock, and the Army of Ghosts. That would have been really cool. Oh well. You can't have everything, I suppose. Nightmare in Silver didn't. So the humans decide to steal the cyber ship to get to the Boundary, but Ashad and his two cyber cronies are on their way. And they also, for some reason, make the Cybermen cry. I'm wondering if it's so that they can remove the organic components of those Cybermen. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, the ship heads to the Boundary, and the Cybermen try to break into the bridge where the humans are hiding out. And they succeed to and come after them. It actually looked like the humans might have been killed at the very end of episode 9. And to be honest, one of them does die at the start of episode 10. If this was a classic series story, if this was classic series, that character would have died at the very end of episode 9. Then you have the cliffhanger. Then episode 10, you would recap that death at the start. Cliffhanger, then that gets resolved. And said character who died at the end of episode 9 who gets recapped at the start of episode 10 does not get a credit in episode 10, but does in episode 9. If it was classic Who, that would have happened. But besides the Cybermen breaking into the bridge of the ship, the cliffhanger revolves around the Boundary revealing Gallifrey and the Master popping back through, and him warning the Doctor that to be very, very afraid. And now we come to episode 10, but before we do, episode 9, I think, is a finely structured story, apart from the Brendan stuff. But I think it's done well. I think it's paced pretty good. I think it's got some really good ideas, some great characters, great adventure. On the whole, as a standalone episode, it's really good. Minus the Brendan stuff, which, in the context of episode 9, doesn't make sense. It does with episode 10, but not with episode 9. Unless they actually were presented or edited as visions or dreams, and or the Doctor mentioned something about it, because then it would have made sense. But as they are, they don't make a lick of sense in the context of Ascension of the Cybermen. They connect to the Timeless Children, but not Ascension of the Cybermen. Okay, so the Timeless Children. Okay, this is the messiest episode of the series. I thought Orphan 55, Praxis, and Can You Hear Me were a bit messy. And maybe the two parts of Spyfall and Fugitive to Doom. The two episodes that really weren't that messy were the two historical ones. Pseudo-historicals. Anyway, so the Master takes the Doctor to Gallifrey to reveal the truth about the Timeless Child. And I've got to start going into a bit of a history lesson here, because I've got to start explaining what's going on. So the Master reveals that this Gallifreyan explorer called Tecteun, back so long ago, as the 10th Doctor would go, she ventured off to another planet where she found this boundary, not necessarily the same one as we see in this in the previous episode. It looks like a different one, and we've seen this vision in Spyfall Part 2 and Can You Hear Me, where Tecteun, well, we see the Timeless Child underneath the boundary. According to the Master, Tecteun finds her having been fallen or dropped through this boundary from another universe. So she adopts the child, takes her home to Gallifrey after a few adventures, and tries to find out more about her. Then one day, as the child is playing with a friend, she accidentally falls off a cliff. By the way, her expression there isn't much of an expression on that child's face. I'm slightly blaming more the director. If they didn't give any direction to what the expression needed to be, then that child won't give them the expression that fits the situation. Like, something to show fear or shock. The same could be said for Brendan's one in the previous episode when he falls off the cliff. But I think because he's older, the actor at least has an idea of what he needs to do. But I think the actress, the girl playing the Timeless Child, needed a bit more direction. So I'm not going to blame her too much, because I think because she's that young, I think she could have had a bit more direction in the facial expression. It's more of a nitpick than an actual criticism, but I feel like it could have helped with the situation. It did take me out of the episode a little bit. In episode 9's case, it was just plainly obviously CGI that they were falling back down, and the same could be said here, but the expression took me out a bit more. Anyway, so when the child falls onto the ground, it turns out she can regenerate. So Tech Tae-yoon decides to experiment on, or at least investigate the child's biology. Over time, the child regenerates a few more times until Tech Tae-yoon is finally able to crack regeneration and test it on herself with success. Over time, she applies it to all Gallifreyans and cap it at the number of 12 regenerations, so making 13 lives. And shortly afterwards, they build the capital, they build the city of Gallifrey, and then they discover time travel. That's sort of glossed over a little bit. The Master says, oh, they discovered the ability to time travel. So I'm guessing the whole stuff about Rassilon and Omega, to an extent, still remains as it is, especially Omega finding time travel. See the Three Doctors. So I'm guessing the Omega Rassilon stuff, see the Three Doctors, Death, the Deadly Assassin, the Five Doctors, does still fit. It's still part of Time Lord lore. They've just covered this whole stuff that came before it with the Timeless Child up. They just covered it up with secrets and lies and stories. Maybe with the stories of the other from the expanded media novels from the 90s, first mentioned in Lungbarrow. And the same with the Looms as well. And then after that, they decide to set up this organization known as the Division, which may or may not be the precursor to the CIA, the Time Lord ones. And they cover their tracks by having these visions, or at least in the Matrix, these visions of people living in early to mid to late 20th century Ireland. Early to mid, then mid to late for the final bit. For some reason, they decide 20th century Ireland, and yeah, it's just a bit odd and awkward. I don't know why they do that. In fact, it doesn't actually make any sense in that context. It ties in with the Brendan stuff in episode 9, but actually thinking about it in the context of the story, why would they choose 20th century Ireland? Why would they do that? And a lot of stuff with the Division is wiped from the Matrix, or hidden from that. It's hidden from the Matrix. However, there's still one small bit. And that's when they erase the Timeless Child's memories at the end, when their usefulness is over, I guess. And after that, they regenerate the child back into a child or baby, or even into sperm and egg cells, and implant them into parents. A male Time Lord and a female human, not Time Lady, human. Why? Well, that's what I'm guessing. The Doctor theorizes that they regenerate the child back into who was the Timeless Child when he was grown up. Just regeneration sheet to a couple more sheets into a few he's. See, regeneration can change gender as well as race and age and other stuff. They turn the child, grown up child now, I suppose. Got to come up with a better name for him slash her. Back into a literal child, and they carry on. They go from there with 12 regenerations, and now they're fully Time Lord, or Time Lord, half human. Same could be said if they've regenerated them back into sperm and egg cells and let it be born that way. But it's a half human, half Time Lord. They've got 12 regenerations left. They're on their first of 13 lives. Their memories of what came before are wiped, and they, yeah, half Time Lord, half human. They've got that DNA inside of them. They just feel like they're like everybody else, really. Little do they know that they used to be the originators of the DNA and the regeneration, and the one of the original founders of Gallifrey, or at least via experiments anyway. And of course, this child, as it's revealed, turns out to be the Doctor. So, yeah, let's just get one thing straight. The first Doctor, as played by William Hartnell between 1963 and 1966 and 1973, and also Richard Turndale in 1983 and David Bradley in 2017, and many voice actors in those periods as well. The first Doctor, as originally played by William Hartnell, is still the first Doctor. He's still the first incarnation of the Time Lord known as the Doctor. However, it turns out that the Doctor was previously the Timeless Child, and then through wiping their memories, capping the regeneration limit to 12 after regenerating the Timeless Child into properly a child again, or whatever. And then we're basically, it's a reboot of the Doctor's life. We're starting from scratch. William Hartnell is the first of a new set of incarnations, or the last 12 sets of incarnations at the very least. And he's not aware of his previous life. As far as he's aware, he was born who he became. He was born the first Doctor, and he would grow up to be who we now know as the first Doctor, and then would continue as the following Doctors later on down the line. But that doesn't mean he can't be the Timeless Child. He can be, but they just changed the DNA, the biology, and wiped the memories so that we can start from scratch with the Doctor, starting with the first incarnation as played by William Hartnell. Okay, we got it. We're okay now. We're fine. We got it. I mean, to be honest, the stuff with the Timeless Child being the Doctor and then becoming the Doctor, but they don't remember. It's a new set of lives and slightly different person maybe, but still the same at the same time. It's complicated. It's actually very similar to the theory of the other from the Virgin New Adventures novels introduced in Lungbarrow. So yeah, it's actually very similar to that. People who subscribe to the theory of the other, take note, because this is very similar to that. With the theory of the other, this is the theory my friend Matt from the Universals came up with. The other was because he supports the theory of the looms introduced in Lungbarrow as well, which is how Time Lords are born. Think how the Kryptonians were born in Man of Steel. And he claims that he thinks that the other was naturally born, and then after he helps found Gallifrey, and then towards the end of his life, he looms himself into a new body so that he can continue, but not as himself, as somebody else, but he can still continue to do good in the universe. And that Time Lord becomes the Doctor. So it's very similar to that. Personally, I always thought the Doctor was the only naturally born Time Lord in however long it was. Again, like in Man of Steel, with Superman being the Kal-El being the first naturally born Kryptonian in however long. And I always thought that would be the Doctor is basically the only natural born Gallifreyan, more, I don't know, a millennial or something, whilst everybody else was loomed. As the Master says, the Doctor always acted like they were special. So, yeah, I would have. That was how I theorised it beforehand, taking in the account of the looms, but also the half human, half Time Lord side from the TV movie, which is canon. Or at least it was anyway. I don't know how it works now. But yeah, it would have been fun playing around with the theory of the other. But now we've got this Timeless Child stuff, which is pretty much the same thing as the other theory, but without the whole stuff with the looms. And pretty much it is definitely the same person, but starting again. Basically, like I said, the Doctor's basically the Timeless Child, but rebooted. It does beg the question: do they have actual 12 regenerations, or did the Time Lords just pretend to give the Doctor a new set of lives at the end of the time of the Doctor? Well, I would think they catch the regeneration once they turned the Timeless Child into the Doctor and erased their memories. I think they would have capped the regeneration, but I think the Time Lords, in their hearts, decided to give the Doctor another set of 13 lives to follow on from the 13 that the Doctor had. Not the Timeless Child, the Doctor, since the erase of the memory and the biological mess up or whatever they did. So to conclude, William Hartnell's still the first Doctor, and that's not going to change. It's just that we've got this whole thing in front of him, but then they did stuff and he became the Doctor and he's the first one, okay? And it's very similar to the theory of the Other, which has been floating around since the mid to late 90s. So this is actually not very new, to be honest. It's just different to something that came before. And no, that was expanded media, not in the show. But yes, it was something that was around for a while and could theoretically have worked. This is basically that, but slightly different. Okay, are we clear now? We're okay? Good, we'll calm down. Okay. Meanwhile, the Cyberman story is still going on at the same time, and this story kind of splits itself into 4 parts. We got the Master Subconsciousness talking to the Doctor. We got the Master teaming up with Ashad to create, because Ashad the Siberian wants just mechanical Cybermen, which the Master dismisses as just, oh, you'll just be robots, and decides to upgrade Cyberman technology to Time Lord corpses, the corpses of the Time Lords he had killed. He kills Ashad to get this little bomb inside of him that can be used to destroy all organic life. Well, actually, he doesn't kill him for that. Ashad just has that inside of him, which is hinted in episode 9. But the Master gets kills him for the Siberium to go inside of him and take control of the Cyber Army. Meanwhile, the other Cyber Army, the new Cyberman designs, come after Ryan and the general character and one of the humans, whilst the other 2 humans, Yasmin and Graham, have to find out a way to get off the ship. And a nice nod to attack the Cybermen by dressing up as in cyber suits. Eventually, they're able to defeat all the Cybermen. Nice nod to Ryan overcoming his basketball playing troubles. I've seen in episode 1 of the series, Spyfall Part 1. So then the gang head over to Gallifrey to try and stop the Master and the Cybermen and save the Doctor. The Doctor, of course, after meeting up with a vision of the Roof Doctor, or the Fugitive Doctor, however you want to call it, Jo Martin's Doctor from Fugitive of the Jadoon, after a vision from her, kind of giving her some strength to help her, she then resists the Matrix by showing her everything she knows. And we get probably the most archive footage of the show shown on screen in the show so far. After we kind of count down back through series 12 and 11, then we go backwards throughout series 1 to 10, and then through the classic series, showing all previous Doctors as well as the Morbius Doctors and the Roof Doctor. By the way, this story, if Roof Doctor is apparently the an incarnation of the Timeless Child, it's theoretical that the Morbius Doctors from 1976 is the brain of Morbius, which predicted this whole Timeless Child stuff 44 years ago, which had the idea of pre-Hartnell Doctors before this series. And because it was still kind of up in the air whether that was until the 12 regeneration, 13 life stuff in the Deadly Assassin came later that year, and the first Doctor was apparently the first incarnation from that point onwards. But Brendan Morbius tried to say, actually, there might have been more Doctors. And then we know, of course, that those couldn't be the first 8 Doctors, otherwise Peter Davison would be the final incarnation. And we know that didn't happen. But this story instead tries to say that maybe these Morbius Doctors were in fact Morbius timeless children alongside the Roof Doctor. Perhaps. Maybe they were a series of test runs. That makes even less sense. Okay, then ignore that. But yeah, eventually the Doctor escapes from the Matrix and meets up with her fam and the other humans. They then destroy the Cyberman ship, destroying all the Cybermen besides the Time Lord Cybermen. Then the Doctor gets everyone away in a TARDIS, apart from the general character who sneaks back out and goes to confront the Master and the Cyber Time Lords one last time. And holy shit, I think this story does the whole Time Lord other race hybrid storyline better than Series 9 did. If you remember, in Series 9, people were saying that, there's going to be two alien races, and somehow they come together to form a hybrid. And throughout that series, we get a couple of hybrids, and there have been hybrids across the show before, and how building up to what is the hybrid? Who is the hybrid, perhaps? And what we get, I won't spoil it for a review of Hellbent, I'll do. If you're watching all of these stories in order from start to finish, then it's already been done. But what the hybrid turns out in the end is just, it sucks. It doesn't even make much sense, it just sucks. It's terrible. Here we got Cyberman Time Lord hybrids, and I think it's just done better here, actually having a hybrid stuff. They don't really mention it. It's like, oh, hybrids and stuff. But I thought, it seems like the hybrid idea, it would have been interesting maybe if they touched on it, but, yeah. But I think touching it on it or not, but referencing it or not, this story does the hybrid storyline better than the actual hybrid storyline. Oh. So what you like about the Series 12 story arc, but we've got to at least say that it was better than Series 9's, can't we? Can't we? Anyway, so the Doctor is prepared to destroy the Master and the Cybermen with the Ashad with the bomb inside, the organic wipeout life bomb that would, which is attached to a proper bomb from General Character, and she's prepared to wipe them all out so that he can't leave Gallifrey. However, General Character comes in to offer to do the job for her. As it turns out, he was the one who sent the Siberian back in time for the Cybermen to not be able to find, although he says, we obviously didn't send it back far enough. And then he takes over from destroying it whilst the Doctor escapes in another TARDIS. Obviously, General Character dies. The Master screams, all of you through here now, presumably meaning towards a TARDIS or back through the boundary. It's likely the Master will be back. I'm pretty sure Sacha Dhawan at the moment is uncertain whether he'll be back as the Master, but I'm pretty sure the Master will be back. And that line just now, he said, would be his "I escaped" explanation next time we get to his or her next reveal, depending on who's playing them. Because basically the Master in the 80s would just turn up, and basically the excuse would be "I escaped," although not in dialogue. Same for Missy, how she escaped Skaro at the start of Series 9. Although there's an explanation how she survived death in heaven, they don't say how she got out in, which is familiar. So again, that could be put down to "I escaped." And then the Master escaping the Krasavan world, we can just put it down to "I escaped." And to be honest, it's very 80s. I would actually like the Master to at one point go, "I escaped," in actual dialogue, and maybe follow it by, "I do this all the time." Like, throughout the majority of my lives, I've escaped, and I've not revealed how. I just escaped. And that's all you need to know. That would be a great line to add in, because that would actually be true. That would be very, very true. Speaking of escaping, the Doctor returns back to her TARDIS on the planet that they first landed, and then she goes back inside the TARDIS as the humans, including Ryan, Yaz, and Graham, go back to Sheffield in the 21st century. And then at the very end of the story, this ending, when the Doctor's contemplating on everything, the Jadoon then somehow turn up into the TARDIS. This series, the TARDIS has just been letting anything inside. And last series, come to think about it, but that was the Kablam Man. It was a delivery. But this series, we've had Kasavan, we've had, what's his name from Can You Hear Me? And now some Jadoon turn up, including a Jadoon captain, which may or may not be the one from Fugitive. And why are they here? I mean, I get the Fugitive Doctor, Ruth, is the fugitive that they're after, and their contract is not finished. But why are they going after the 13th Doctor? What do they think of her as an accomplice and decide, well, we can't execute her for being an accomplice, maybe, but maybe we can lock her up for life. And if the Ruth Doctor does turn out to be a future incarnation of the Doctor rather than a past one or a timeless child incarnation, then are they trying to think that putting this one in prison for life and that means that they will erase the Roof Doctor from history or change time or something. In that case, they obviously haven't thought it through. Actually, that's totally Jadune, to be honest. But yeah, the Doctor is somehow transported out of the TARDIS to a prison cell in a prison in an asteroid, doing a David Tennant what a couple of times as she does it. So it's a very Doomsday Last of the Time Lords deleted scene from Journey's End styled ending. When the Doctor would just go what a couple of times at the very end, leading into our festive special. Also, I really, really, really hope that prison is Sharda. Please, please, please be Sharda. Sharda! Don't remake Sharda. We've already got the 2017 version. That's the definitive version. You don't have to remake it with Daleks. Oh yeah, the next episode will feature the Daleks and maybe also Captain Jack. Possibly also the Dune, because they've got some sort of role to play in this. Well, as if this episode's conclusion is anything to go by. But I really hope that Sharda that they've gone to, please. Considering all the classic series references we've got here, it would be a nice reference to the Die Hard fans. Maybe. Or even for the younger fans who may have been following Doctor Who YouTube or home media releases and would have found out about this unfinished classic. For more information, go and watch my reviews on Sharda. Anyway, so The Timeless Children is messy. It's a messy story. It's good. I like it. I even like the stuff before the Doctor, although I think it could have been a bit explained more how the Timeless Child became the Doctor. They kind of got over that a little bit. And there's still so much to be revealed, so I'm hoping Series 13 gets around to doing that. And I'm hoping Series 13 focuses more on telling this story arc rather than business as usual in some places, like some episodes of Series 12, where we had this big story arc, had this big mystery, and then some episodes with business as usual, like how Series 11 was. And then some episodes with Series 11 style business as usual. So, I mean, some of those were fine, but some of them felt just odd. So it would be nice if more stories in Series 13 focused on this story. Maybe you could calm it down in the middle and then pick it up again later on, but it really needs to focus on it in Series 13. And hopefully Revolution of the Daleks, the Christmas New Year special, will hopefully finish up this story that started at the very end of this episode. It's almost like a 4-part story, or 5 parts if you start from Can You Hear Me? But anyway... but this story is pretty messy. Ascension of the Cybermen is fine as it is, minus the Brendan stuff, but Timeless Children is just so all over the place with its plot. You've got all the stuff with Gallifrey, with the whole revelation of the Timeless Child, and the stuff with the Doctor and the Master. The Master's plan with the Cybermen, the humans and companions fighting off against the Cybermen in 2 stories that tie in. And then it all ties in at the very end, not to mention setting up our festive special story, as well as keeping a few things hidden for the next series, if at all. As well as revealing some stuff that has been set up before. And it doesn't make a huge amount of clarity on some things, like who is the Roof Doctor? Is she a Timeless Child incarnation? We still don't know. This episode should have been the episode that should have said where this Doctor comes in, so if she pops up again, we know where she's from. Even if Series 13 reveals it, I still think it should have been Series 12, because she was introduced halfway through. To be honest, it's halfway through the 13th Doctor's era if she does only 3 series. But still, it would have been nice to know, unless Joe Martin is the one who will take over from Jodie Whittaker at the end of afterwards, maybe. We don't know at this point. We just don't know. And yeah, I just think the episode is it's trying to tell so many stories at the same time. It's got the big Sideman story. You're continuing the mystery setup in Spyfall with hints from the Ghost Monument. And you're answering a few questions, answering a few things, as well as setting up mysteries and ideas for Series 13 with a cliffhanger that leads into the festive special. That will be resolved there, hopefully. And on top of that, you got all the Brendan stuff in episode 9. That's just about links into episode 10, but it's not perfect. And to be honest, you could have lost it and you wouldn't have lost much to the story. like I said, Ascension of the Cybermen on its own is fine. It's a fine standalone episode, minus the Brendan stuff. But with the Timeless Children, that episode is so messy, so all over the place in terms of its plot. It's trying to do so many things at once, and I think it would have been fine doing that if it was a bit more, if there was a bit more stuff finalized. It's a bit like with the Silence arc throughout the 11th Doctor's era, except at the end of series 5 and 6, they actually wrapped up the main stuff throughout those series, but left a few things open-ended to cover in the next series, or the rest of Matt Smith's tenure. And had Series 8 been with Matt Smith, they would have wrapped up his era by revealing some mysteries, tying it all together, so they wouldn't have to do it in one episode like Time of the Doctor. Matt Smith, I love you. You are my favourite Doctor, but you should have stuck around for one more series so that Stephen Moffat can wrap up the story arc in a series rather than in one Christmas special. Or at least let him write a two-parter, at the very least. Maybe Stephen Moffat should have written a two-parter Christmas New Year special like Russell did. But anyway, that's going off topic. But it's a bit like Series 5 and 6 where they set up this mysteries throughout the 11th Doctor's era, and then at the end of those series, they wrap up the ones more focused in that series, but left some stuff to be explored in later series, which mostly worked. But like I said, I think if Matt Smith had stayed another series, they would have been able to wrap it up better than they did. Also, Series 7 wasn't really focused on it because it was dealing with the departure of the Ponds and the Impossible Girl storyline because it was the 50th anniversary series. But yeah, Series 8 really should have been with Matt Smith, and they should have wrapped up his story arc properly. I do blame the actor for that, but then again, I do blame Moffat for how he did wrap it up in the stories that we did get. But I think Series 5 and 6 wrapped up their series arcs more or less, especially Series 5. Series 12 doesn't really wrap up its series arc, it just leaves it half done, whilst also opening the door for Series 13's. You should have wrapped up the Series 12 stuff and then left something open for Series 13. That would have been fine. And like I said, it's doing all of these stuff at once. Big Bang and Pandorica Opens kind of did a couple of stuff at the same time, but it worked pretty well. But here, not so much. Maybe if this story was 3 parts, because it is a very big episode centered on the story arc, but if this one was 3 parts, where the first 2 dealt with the Cyberman stuff, and then part 3 focused on the whole revealing of the mystery, maybe the Master tries to get some Cybermen to join him, but most of the versus the Doctor and Humans versus Cyberman stuff are in the first 2 episodes, and then you got the 3rd episode, which is more on the series arc. Then it might have worked. It might have made a lot more sense. Even being 65 minutes long, The Timeless Children still feels a bit crowded. So I think it should have been 3 parts, not including the Haunting of Villa Diety. I think it should have been a 3-part story. Ascension of the Cybermen, The Timeless Children, and another episode. Well, Timeless Children would still be the last one, so another one in the middle. Split the 2 stories of Ascension of Timeless Children in half and put the Cyberman stuff in the 2nd episode, and then the Master Time Lord Gallifrey stuff in the 3rd. It would have been a lot more easy and make a lot more sense, and would have been a less busy and crowded. As it is, it's a very messy story. At time of recording, I originally did this recorded this review yesterday. However, there were some problems. It was also very long as well, so I'm hoping this one's a bit shorter. It was nearly an hour, and this one it's about 3/4 at the moment, but it'll be shorter than an hour. But yeah, yesterday when I recorded it, I decided to change. I originally had it as an 8 out of 10, but I decided to change it to a 7 out of 10 when I came round to doing the scores. So it's time to do the scores here for this retake. So I will be giving Ascension of the Cybermen and The Timeless Children a 7 out of 10. I like this episode, this story. I think it's good. I think it's got some good stuff to it. But it's so messy, especially in episode 10. Episode 9's fine, apart from the Brendan stuff, which doesn't really make any sense in the context of episode 9, nor in the story context of episode 10, to be honest. They just decide that, maybe it was revealed later on in series 13. Who knows? Who knows? But right here, right now, it doesn't make much sense. But but and episode 10 is just so messy. It's busy doing so many things at the same time, and it doesn't feel like it's able to go back and forth between them that well. You're more focused on one thing, but you then have to go to another thing. And it's to be honest, episode 9 sort of did that with the whole Brendan stuff, but I don't think that was as bad because we did get more focus on the story that we needed to focus on, whilst episode 10 has two big storylines going on at the same time across 4 or 5 plot lines, and it just feels a bit messy. And it could have been handled better. That's why I thought it should be better as a 3-parter, so that they can do the Cyberman stuff in episode 2. Maybe leave the Master's Plan for episode 3. Fair enough. But most of episode 3 would be centered around the whole revelation of the series arc, whilst episodes 1 and 2 could deal with the main story of this main plot of the story. That would have been perfect. But alas, that's not how it was. So that's a shame. But I did like it. I did think it was good. I think episode 1 was better. In some cases, the first part is better than the second part. But in some cases, like Spyfall, the second part is better than the first. Yeah, it fluctuates between stories. And same for classic series for individual episodes. And also Utopia Sound of Drums last time was, for the first one, in my opinion, being the best of the 3. So, on the whole, this was a good series finale, but it was also a very messy one and could have been executed, written, and just outright done a lot better, or at least more spread out, maybe over a 3-part story, because it does feel very crowded. I will say, though, it is better than the Battle of Ranskoor Ad Kolos. It is easily the better of the 2 13th Doctor series finales. It's also better than bloody Hellbent. It might be better than Dark Water, Death in Heaven. It might be better than Name of the Doctor. It might not be. It might be better than Wedding River Song. It might not be. It's definitely not better than any of the Russell T Davies ones. Pandora Opens Big Bang. And it's certainly not better than World Enough in Time, Dr. Falls. The last Cyberman Master story. Oh yeah, we've had 3 Master Cyberman 2-part finales, 2-part finales in the last 5 series. From Series 8, then Series 10, and now Series 12. Are we going to get this again in Series 14? It feels like from Series 8 onwards, we have a Master Cyberman 2-part finale every second series from Series 8. So it's Series 14. I wouldn't mind either one or the other coming back, but not together again. Series 14, have something different. I am hoping that the Daleks come back for a series finale at a later point. Maybe Series 14 so that they have time to breathe in Series 13, unless that's their Series 13 appearance. Actually, yeah, have the Daleks in the Series 13 finale. That'll be fine. And then have something else in another finale, because apart from Series 6, the finales have... Series 6 had a Dalek cameo, but they weren't the main villains of Series 6. Series 6, 7, 9, and 11 are the series that don't have the Daleks, the Master, or the Cybermen as the main series finale baddies, although in 6, a Dalek does appear. In 9, there is Dalek and Cyberman cameos. But the Daleks are in 1, 2, 4, and 5's finales as the main villains, and Cybermen in 2, a secondary villain in 5, and then the main again in 8, 10, 12, and then the Master in 3, 8, 10, 12. And a couple more monsters in 5, because that's the Pandora Opens and the Big Bang. You've got the Alliance in that story. And then for 6, it's the Silence. 7, it's the Great Intelligence and the Whisper Men. And in 9, it's technically the Time Lords, or the Doctor, however you want to look at it. And 11, it's Tim Shaw. We'll get to future series finales when we get to them. We've got at least 3 more series to get through, whether they're under Chibnall or not. Or the next one will be. I don't know about the last 2. The following 2, I should say. Hopefully we'll carry on after Series 15. Also, I'm only talking new series finales. We'd be here all day if I went through Classic Who. I can certainly say this one is better than some, but not as good as others. Anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching this review. Apologies for the length. Actually, it might be very nearly an hour. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever comes up. I will be doing a review of the Faceless One's animated version, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. And as for the stories going in order, the next story will be Revolution of the Daleks, around the festive season, which is why there won't be a next review, next Doctor Who review, Revolution of the Daleks, in the credits at the end. It won't say that because it's going to be so far away, even if it's true. And there's no pictures. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. I'll just close the window. Hope we've got enough air. But I think episode 10 gets a bit messy. Sorry, that was a notification. And we see clips of him with his family growing up a little bit. Yeah, if you see. Excuse me. In the context. And yeah. So yeah, well. Anyway. But yeah, if it was okay, but in this case, besides the Cybermen breaking into the bridge of the ship, they but and maybe Spyfall as well and Fugitive as well. Okay, yeah. But I think the actor manages to and this discovers that and a human, well, because I mean they theorize that they regenerate him. The Doctor really but yeah, anyway, as I was saying, but yeah, as I was saying, as well as Richard turned out in 1960, the Time Lord corpses he killed. And as seen at the start of as seen in episode 1, but as seen in episode 1 of the series, and he, but the Time Lords in their hearts decides to give the Doctor more lives at the end of his first set of the Doctor's incarnate. But in the but I like but yeah. So let's just get which predicted this which pretty much anyway that claims to be and then if you remember that storyline, there was a prophecy about the Time Lord, a Time Lord and another creature being a hybrid or two. Oh, hang on, let's start again. But let's just say that what's revealed doesn't about that, but and the terrible secret that the it's just. And they, if it's series 13 revealing, then that's still, I think it still should, but yeah, but series 5 and 6, I think, wrapped up their series arcs better, but not the, even with 65 minutes. Anyway, so I will be giving Ascension of the Cybermen. Some cases, like Spyfall, the second part is better than, or World Enough in Time, Doctor Falls, or Heaven Says actually not the finale. That's the episode before the finale. It's not two-part. Anyway, in series 7, or same, series 6 and 7 are the only finales not to have Dalek, Cybermen, or the Master as the main villains, and series 9 actually. But again, cameos there. 6, 7, 8, and 9, 6, 7, and 9. With 7 them not any of them appearing at all. But yeah, and series 11s. For fuck's sake. But 1, 2, 4, 5. Well, they're not the main villain. Well, they are the main villains. And Cybermen in 2s. But yeah, but I think series 13 needs. I think series 40. But anyway, that's it. But anyway, that's that. Anyway, we'll find out what series. But series 13. We'll, But anyway, so Ascension of the Cybermen, Timeless Children. I think it's definitely better than fucking Dragonfire. I can safely say that it's better than fucking Dragonfire. I hate that shit. Okay, I'm gonna cut that last bit actually.